welcome back to another episode of Health Empowerment News with WOODRUFF. This week, we're talking about vitamin D, magnesium, and calcium. And welcome back to another episode of Health Empowerment News. I'm here in the studio with CROFT WOODRUFF, the walking encyclopedia of natural health, and today we're going to talk about vitamin D, magnesium, calcium, and all sorts of other stuff.
Among other things, yes.
And
hello, everybody, and welcome to the program.
Mm-hmm. And we've been fiddling around with this VidBlaster software right before we started the show because we're thinking about doing some YouTube stuff, maybe recording some video and putting it up on YouTube.
Isn't that nice? They'll get a chance to see my ugly mug.
Yeah. One of Cross friends said, hey, how come you guys aren't doing video? Because people like to see what's going on. So maybe coming to a YouTube channel near you.
We're working on it anyways.
Yeah.
Thanks to our technician and producer, Andrew McGivern.
So, it's pretty cool software, VidBlaster. Check it out at vidblaster.com. And we'll probably be putting that up on YouTube in the next few episodes. This one, probably not. We're just playing with the software. But look for that in the future. And today we want to talk about vitamin D.
Yes, and also we'll talk about calcium and magnesium as well, and perhaps some other minerals that are important for bone health. But one of my heroes is biochemist Dr. Reinhold Vieth. He is with Mount Sinai Hospital in Toronto. It's a Jewish hospital, and there's some great stuff that they're doing at that hospital with vitamin D, and particularly they have found that vitamin D has a strong benefit in terms of protecting us from cancer. In this one particular instance, they were treating men with prostate cancer. Pretty serious business because once you've got it, other than the operations and the biochemistry that they use on you to try and kill the tumors, it's not a very nice thing. And what they found was that with 2,000 or 3,000 international units of vitamin D, and this is natural vitamin D, something you can get off the health food store shelf under brand names like Natural Factors or Swiss Herbal or NRX, I think is another company I can think of. One of my favorites is Natural Factors. But I want to say that they had great success. And Dr. Vieth, of course, was talking to the doctors, urging them to give the patients more vitamin D. And the results were phenomenal. This is about 15, 16 patients involved here. There was a similar study that was going on at the National Institutes of Health in the United States. They were using a synthetic vitamin D, and they were not getting the same results. In fact, virtually, they might as well have forgotten about doing anything because the synthetic D did not do a thing for them.
Oh, sorry about that. Let me kill that audio there.
You can eliminate that later.
I can eliminate that later, yeah. So the synthetic vitamin D wasn't doing anything for them.
No, it didn't do a thing for them. And of course, the word is out that we don't get enough vitamin D in our diet. I mean, there are certain foods that will have it, of course, but we get it from the sunshine. But in the summer months, that's when we're going to get the most sun, and we run around in a bathing suit. But we come out of this, maybe we're at the beach. Or in a swimming pool somewhere, and what do? We've had the sun exposure, maybe 15, 20 minutes. We go and have a shower. Mm-hmm. And even without even using soap, you can wash the, I guess you would call it the preform of vitamin D that's on your skin. Because what happens is that it's absorbed deeper into the epidermis, that is your skin, where it is converted further into forms that the body can use. I don't know all the technical aspects of it, but it is suffice to say that what's the point of sunbathing if you're going to wash all that you've done, and wash it down the drain? And just ordinary water, like a warm or cool or a hot shower, is enough to take the vitamin D off your skin and render it useless to you. So it's something to consider. So if you're going to shower first and do your sunbathing after. And after you've sunbathed, don't bother showering. Get yourself a decent deodorant if you're worried about that.
For a little while anyway.
Yes,
right?
for a little while at least, and give your body a chance to absorb it. They're finding that they're having success with vitamin D at multiple sclerosis. Now, that was a new one on me.
Mm-hmm.
And
I read about that actually. Multiple sclerosis and cancer and other diseases are increase the farther north you go.
That's right.
Where you're getting less sunshine.
Where you're getting less sunshine.
And also the darker the pigment of your skin, in conjunction with the lower amounts of exposure to the sun, increases your risk. So African Americans or African Canadians are at increased risk.
Yes.
Because their skin doesn't absorb the vitamin D as readily as a fair-skinned person. What do you think of that?
Well, this is one reason why the people of Africa and other climates where they get a lot of sunshine, their skin is darker so that it absorbs less of the sun's rays. And I think it's very interesting when you look at the Middle East, where they put on they have all these clothes, these robes, over their bodies. And so they don't get that much sunshine either. And I guess they might get enough as it is, but certainly wearing all this clothing would have an effect of reducing the amount of vitamin D that they do get.
But you do only need to be out in the sun for about 20 minutes.
A very short time.
To maximize
you have 10, 15, 20 minutes at the max. And but the key thing is after you've had the exposure, don't bathe until your body has a chance to absorb what has been formed on your skin.
And how long is that? Do you think?
How long?
Yeah.
Well, I would give it a couple of hours anyways.
Okay, so you're lying on the beach and you're getting some sun and you're warm.
Yeah.
Don't go jumping in the lake or the ocean for right away. Wait
That's
an
right.
hour
Wait
so.
a while. Yeah. But also make sure that you're in the shade so you don't get overexposed. You don't want to get sunburned either.
Yeah, after you're out there for 20 or so minutes, then
that's for sure.
Get into the shade, cover up.
But this is really amazing what we're finding out about vitamin D, and Dr. Reinhold Vieth has, I consider him one of the heroes of medical science, and as a biochemist. And then there is the Vitamin D Foundation, which you can get on the internet. Dr. Cannell is the director.
VitaminDCouncil.org.
Yes. And you'll get all kinds of valuable information. What they're doing with vitamin D, very important. There are cases where people have benefited from high doses of vitamin D, people suffering from pleurisy, which of course is a lung condition.
Mm-hmm.
And so I find that very interesting because I have a friend who has chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, and I'm urging him that perhaps he should consider taking more vitamin D than what he has been. And let's see what turns out over that, and I'll keep you posted about it.
Well, I just went to the VitaminDCouncil.org website, and right on the front page it says Understanding Vitamin D Cholecalciferol. I guess that's the scientific name, right? Cholecalciferol?
Cholecalciferol, yes.
Yeah. And it says the first thing it says is Caucasian skin produces approximately 10,000 international units of vitamin D in response to 20 to 30 minutes summer sun exposure. This is over 16 times higher than the U.S. government's recommendations of 600 international units per day.
Which means that the nutritionists and those in the medical field are very, very conservative as to the amount of vitamin D we actually need. Because believe me, if we're talking how many international units, did you say 16,000?
10,000 international units in 20 to 30 minutes of summer sun exposure.
So if that's what you can make in 20 to 30 minutes, that's probably what you need.
Mm-hmm. And it says this high rate of natural production of vitamin D3, pronounced cholecalciferol.
I say cholecalciferol. That's probably your best bet.
Yeah. In the sun is in the skin is the single most important fact that every person should know about vitamin D, a fact that has profound implications for the natural human condition. And it's basically it's a vitamin, but it acts as a hormone, doesn't it?
Yes, it does actually. By the way it's formed, as from the interaction of the number 7 dehydrocholesterol, which is the oil that is on your skin.
Mm-hmm. And it unlocks binding sites in the human genome. Mm-hmm. And it's a very interesting article here. Go to, I'll put it in the show notes as well for this episode, the vitamindcouncil.org. Very interesting stuff here. And they talk about, what's going on in the world of vitamin C or vitamin D in the media and all the latest research. They have a little section there, are you vitamin D deficient? So you can check that out. They go into toxicity and the pharmacology of vitamin D and a whole bunch of conditions like autism, cancer, depression, mental illness, and
dyslexia, apparently.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. And so they've got a whole protocol for vitamin D for autism. And they're trying to get some clinical studies going as well, so it's very interesting.
As a matter of fact, there's some very interesting. Speaking of autism, some physicians are fingering the vaccine for measles, mumps, and rubella as triggering autism in children, in infants when they're given the shot. A study just came out of Sweden. And there's a Finnish study that backs it up. They've had cases of children going into narcolepsy, which means they're addicted to sleep. And infants are sleeping as much as 20 hours after having the flu shot.
Is narcolepsy when you spontaneously fall asleep?
You just fall asleep just like that. And you stay that way for 20 hours.
Wow.
And this is... I wonder what our media is going to do about that, and the doctors are going to insist that the vaccines are perfectly safe when we know over the years that they haven't been safe. But I didn't want to get on that subject, but suffice to say, this is a very important piece of information. Now getting back to vitamin D, as far as we can determine, I know of no cases of overdosing on vitamin D.
Yeah, it's a fat-soluble vitamin, so you would think that there should be vitamin D.
That it would build up in the body, and you could suffer from overdose.
But I mean, if you
maybe it's because we just don't get enough of it.
Yeah, and if you can produce 10,000 international units in 20 minutes,
mm-hmm.
Very few people are going to take that many vitamin D supplements.
Not likely.
So it looks
like
the
I'll
levels.
tell you, if I had been diagnosed with prostate cancer or suffering from multiple sclerosis, I would think that the vitamin, the D would be the thing I would certainly be putting more into my system.
Mm-hmm.
And certainly when we end up with a summer on this planet where we are right now, maybe I'll get more vitamin D with the sun exposure. But you're likely to freeze to death before you get any vitamin D at all. Right
just as you said that, the clouds kind of opened up and the sun came out.
Yeah.
Wow, that was amazing. And so to get vitamin D, how do you know if you're getting enough vitamin D, or what are the ways for?
Well, it should be vitamin D3, which is the natural form of the vitamin. Biochemistry has been able to give that to us, and there are reputable companies out there in the business of manufacturing health products for people that are concerned about their health and want access to these things, and of course you can pick them up at your local health food store and even in pharmacy.
Okay, so if you can't get out in the sun for 20 to 30 minutes a day, the Vitamin D Council website is saying that you can actually go and use a sunbed, of course, avoiding sunburn. But in the cooler months, you can use a sunbed to
sunbed. This is where you have these special lamps that give the right rays to
the ultraviolet
ultraviolet rays.
Yeah,
right?
Ultraviolet B rays.
Yes.
Which basically they're tanning beds, but a lot of people that do use these tanning beds kind of overdo it to get like the copper tone tan. But yeah, 20 to 30 minutes of exposure in one of these beds will increase your vitamin D in a similar fashion to being out in the sun. And then the other thing they say is to take 5,000 international units per day for 2 to 3 months, then obtain a 25 hydroxy vitamin D test, 25 hydroxy vitamin D, and adjust your dosage so that blood levels are between 50 and 80 or 125 to 200 nml. You understand these different measurements? There's 50 to 80 ng over ml.
No, I don't.
Or 125 to 200 nm over L year round.
The question, of course, is to be able to find a doctor that will order those tests, as well as a lab that will do them. And you may be prepared to have to, or may have to be prepared to pay for it out of pocket, as to whether or not it's covered by Medicare or Pharmacare.
I got a vitamin D test done a couple of years ago, and the doctor prescribed it with no problem. There's a couple other tests. Was it paid
for by Pharmacare?
Yeah, I had to pay for one test, and it was nothing to do with that. But if I'd been diagnosed with prostate cancer, it would have been free.
Isn't that something, eh?
So the lady asked me at the
diagnosis you don't need.
It was a PSA test, actually. I just wanted, for my own knowledge to get the PSA test done. And so it cost me $30, but the lady at the lab asked me if I've been diagnosed with prostate cancer, and I'm like, no, why? And she goes, because if you had, it's free.
Of course, you could always lie, and then you get into trouble doing that.
Yeah, no, it's fine. I just it was just for my own information.
Right.
I wanted to get. I hadn't been had any blood tests for a long time, so I wanted to catch up on everything. But yeah. So vitamin D has cofactors as well. You were talking about calcium and magnesium.
Calcium and magnesium. There are other minerals that are important too. Boron is one. Cobalt is still another. I don't know as much about boron and cobalt, but if you can find a health product of calcium and magnesium together that has those two minerals in it, by all means. As far as calcium and magnesium is concerned, there's been a lot of negative press regarding taking too much calcium and alleging that it precipitates a heart attack. I could understand that because people who are advised to take calcium are not told they should also be taking an equal amount of magnesium. Calcium regulates your heartbeat and your pulse. It causes your heart to contract, to push the blood through the arteries and the veins. And the arteries themselves also contract in conjunction with the heart to help the heart do its job of pushing the blood through your whole circulatory system. And the mineral magnesium plays a role in that it causes the heart muscle, the arteries themselves, to relax. So you have calcium triggering the heart muscle to contract as well as the arteries, and magnesium triggering. I'm sorry, I'm a little mixed up, but let's start again. You have calcium triggering the heart muscle and the arteries to contract, and you have magnesium triggering the heart muscle and the arteries to relax. That, in effect, is the heartbeat and the pulse. So magnesium plays a very important role, and for every milligram of calcium that you are taking, you should be taking at the very least an equal amount of magnesium.
Interesting.
And the other thing is, what type of calcium are you taking? Calcium carbonate? Well, that's chalk for all intents and purposes, and it requires good digestion, and you will only absorb a very small percentage of it. And the best form is in the form of calcium, as well as as magnesium in the form of citrates, calcium and magnesium citrates. And as I say, for every milligram of calcium, you should be taking an equal amount of magnesium, and preferably in the form of citrates. Now, calcium citrate and magnesium citrate are essentially salts of citric acid. Okay. Now, where do you get citric acid? From oranges and lemons and limes and other fruit as well. I can't think of anything that comes to mind right now, but it's very, very important that that you have something the body can recognize and absorb without any difficulty.
What about zinc?
Zinc citrate, yes, you can get zinc citrate. You can get it in a couple of other forms I can't think of right now, but you can get it in zinc citrate, and if you can, fine. Zinc, of course, is very important for healing. It's very important for the health of the male gland, that is the prostate, because a man who is involved in sexual activity will lose a significant amount of zinc. I think it's somewhere in the neighborhood of perhaps about 10 or 15 milligrams, if I am not mistaken. But it is a very important mineral to be taking. And
it's also saying here that one of vitamin D's cofactors is vitamin K2.
Yes.
And what does that do for vitamin D? Does it just increase the absorption?
I think it probably increases the bioactivity of the vitamin D itself.
Mm-hmm. And they say just like you said earlier, they're saying that magnesium is the most important cofactor. In fact, it is common for rising vitamin D levels to exacerbate an underlying magnesium deficiency.
It exacerbates, yeah.
Yeah, and if one is having
makes
problems,
it worse.
Yeah, if one is having problems supplementing with vitamin D, a magnesium deficiency could be the reason why.
Exactly.
So you kind of have to go.
Yeah, you have to have the same amounts of calcium and magnesium.
And very interesting. And
because I have several people who have my telephone number, and they have osteoporosis, and they have other issues relative to calcium and particularly magnesium deficiencies. And this is something that I keep harping at them, that this is what they should be looking at, and this is what they should be using and doing for themselves.
Mm-hmm. And Dr. Reinhold Veith, you were talking about him earlier in the show. He's been doing a lot of work over in Toronto, Mount Sinai Hospital.
Yeah, this man should be getting a medal for the work that he's doing. Yeah,
so he's been actually. You were telling a story before the show about how he was a patient was it cancer? He had cancer, or was it
Several patients, they were working with prostate cancer. Is that the one?
Yes, that's
Yeah,
what you're saying.
yes, I forget the number. I think it was around 14 or 15 men with prostate cancer. And he got the oncologists or the physicians that were treating these gentlemen to give them vitamin D in the amounts of 2,000 or 3,000 international units. In fact, he was urging them to give these men even more, up towards 4,000 or 5,000 international units. And the results were spectacular. The tumors disappeared.
Wow. And
a similar study was done at the National Institutes of Health in Bethesda, Maryland. Bethesda, Maryland. And they were using synthetic D, and they weren't using nearly as much as it was, and they were not getting the same results that they were getting in Mount Sinai Hospital in Toronto.
Interesting. And the other thing too is we mentioned at the opening of the program is that a lot of his work is focused on multiple sclerosis.
Yes.
And he's saying that MS is a condition where you lose the insulating covering on nerve fibers, causing you to lose various functions such as muscle control and ability to see. And it's progressive. It gets worse. And he's saying that taking vitamin D supplements can keep this condition from developing in children. So vitamin D supplementation for children is very important.
It isn't enough to let them run outside naked during the summer months.
Well, I guess that is enough if they're out there, but but a lot of kids are playing video games these days.
That's right, and they're put into the bathtub, and all the good is washed off of them.
Yep. All right, so
now there's another thing I'd like to talk about, and it's relative to the fact that there have been some negative stories about vitamin D, of course, not so much vitamin D, but calcium, and they're urging people to take less calcium when in fact they're not taking enough, and more important, they're not getting enough magnesium, and we've already dealt with that in any case. But you have to be very careful about what is coming over the TV or radio news, as well as what you're reading in the newspaper, because the whole story is not there. And like I say, if they're getting too much calcium, it's likely the problem is not because they're getting too much calcium. They're not getting the right kind of calcium, as we've mentioned, as mineral ascorbate, or they're not getting enough magnesium. This is very, very important. And the other factors are vitamin C is also very important for bone and mineral health, because vitamin C in its own right, like citric acid, is a mineral transporter. And that's why you can buy vitamin C as calcium ascorbate. But if you do, make sure that you get an equal amount of magnesium. I haven't seen magnesium as an ascorbate. Certainly not by itself. I have seen it in certain products as multiple mineral ascorbates. A company in the United States called Alacer, ALACER, makes these types of supplements that you can actually dissolve them in water and take them that way if you're aversion to taking tablets or pills. But what I wanted to make a point here is that they're warning you about taking too much calcium, when in fact the issue is not getting enough magnesium and probably not getting enough vitamin C. But one of the best things I know of that a doctor can do for his patient or her patient is to give the patient an intravenous infusion of vitamin C. And the U.S. Public Health or the National Institutes of Health, they're actually making it more difficult for doctors to give their patients an IV of vitamin C. And I would tell you right now, if I had cancer, that's one of the first things I would ask my physician to do, is to give me an IV of vitamin C, because it is a powerful immune enhancer. And it's an antiviral in any case. A few years ago, a she's what you'd call a step cousin, because she's actually the daughter of a man that my youngest aunt, my mother's youngest sister, is married to, and she came to see me. She had 2 sons. They're in their late teens, early 20s. One of them has come down with this viral disease, the kissing disease, mononucleosis, and pretty bad. And she came to see me about it. I just picked up the telephone and phoned one of my physician friends and said, "Can you give this young fellow an IV of vitamin C?" And he said, "By all means." So I put my niece on the phone with my physician friend and set up an appointment. The fellow had just 4 treatments over 4 days. And each treatment might be about 40 minutes, something like that, 20 minutes, 40 minutes, I forget now. But the bottom line is that he felt like $1 million as soon as he was unplugged from the IV for the first treatment. And the second treatment was the same. That's the second day. The third day, the same. Fourth day, completely clear of it. Now, I mean, there is something for the record.
Yeah. Actually, while we're on this topic, it's a little bit of a digression, but a friend of my dad, his, and these guys are typically very traditional and very, focused. If it's not a medical doctor, or if it's not mainstream medicine, they think useless, it's hocus pocus.
Yeah, hocus pocus.
And so this guy, he has a friend who has cancer, and he was going to see a doctor who was using chelation therapy, and I believe
that's hocus pocus too.
I believe it's your friend. I won't say the doctor's name just because I don't know for sure, but
I think you're probably right, but you don't say his name anyway.
Yeah, and they were doing. It was a medical doctor. And he's doing chelation therapy, and the guy is doing extremely well now. And he's been talking to some of his other patients, and he swears by this now. He says he can't believe it, this chelation therapy. And but I wasn't aware of chelation therapy being used for cancer. Do you know anything about that? I mean, it's heart disease
and for cancer treatment as well. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Dr. Frederick Klenner is one of the pioneers in chelation therapy, and it's used for several disease conditions. Aside from the fact that, of course, if you are working in the heavy metal industry and possibly at risk for lead poisoning or some other metal poisoning, then this would make some sense. And by the way, I suspect that chelation therapy might be something very useful for radiation poisoning, particularly if you're dealing with a radioactive mineral.
Like strontium or
strontium or radioactive iodine, perhaps.
Interesting. So he's out. His friend is out there getting this treatment, and he's doing fairly well, better than he was before with the other therapies he was doing, and so it's kind of interesting. I guess it makes sense because cellular zeolite was marketed as
a chelator. I think
it is it's a chelator, but it was marketed as a anti-cancer drug. The patent on this particular product I'm thinking of actually is as a cancer treatment. And it's a cellular zeolite product, which is
but vitamin C, by the way, is also a chelating agent.
Yep.
And therefore, anybody who has any problem with metal toxicity or any, as far as I'm concerned, any kind of metabolic disease, which of course what cancer is, they should be making sure that they take a lot of vitamin C.
Yeah, cool. So, what about for inflammation and an infection, bacterial infection? I know somebody who has his ankle is completely swollen up, and he was on an IV of antibiotics. And so in this case, something like that, an IV of vitamin C would probably do.
It would certainly help. And of course, they should be perhaps using cold packs on the swelling to help to relieve the inflammation and bring it down. But definitely vitamin C. Vitamin C is a diuretic too, by the way, if you take enough of it.
Even intravenous?
Yeah. Yeah, oh yeah, you can go through the system.
Okay. So, but it's also antibacterial and antiviral?
It's antibacterial and antiviral. And by the way, the antibiotics, the problem with them is that they're antimetabolites, and they actually they will stimulate the immune system, but you can only do that so far, and then you start running into trouble, because the last thing you want to do is interfere with the cell's metabolism.
And it also, the antibiotics kill all bacteria, even the good bacteria. So
that is true. So you've got to replenish
with probiotics.
The probiotics for your whole gastrointestinal tract.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even the urinary tract benefits from taking probiotics.
Oh,
but the point that I also wanted to make was that there is a move to discredit the use of vitamins and food supplements in general, really big time. And this move against IV vitamin C, I think, is one of the first big steps in that direction.
So there's a move against IV vitamin C.
And yes, by restricting it. And of course, what else are they after next? And of course, when you see these negative articles about too much calcium or too much of some other vitamin, for instance, there's a story out about taking too much vitamin E. This was just in the paper a few weeks ago. Taking too much vitamin E, more than 100 international units a day, can trigger a heart attack. Well, that depends on the vitamin E that you're using. If it's synthetic, my answer is yes. If it does not have in the formulation what we call the mixed tocopherols, because the main form of vitamin E that is biologically active is alpha tocopherol, and then you have, that is D-alpha tocopherol. And then you have beta and delta tocopherols as well, and that should also be in with your vitamin E supplement. And because I know of people who are taking a lot more than 100 international units of vitamin E, and their cardiovascular system is doing very well, thank you very much. And their heart and blood pressure are normal. Their cholesterol levels are normal. So you have to be very careful about these scare stories about vitamins, because I'm quite certain that Big Pharma doesn't like the competition from health products, and that's why you have a lot of negativity from certain physicians, even in this town.
The latest issue of the Townsend letter has an article about vitamin C and cholesterol, and how people are taking all these statin drugs, but high cholesterol isn't the problem in cardiovascular disease, and it's actually it doesn't help with atherosclerosis.
It doesn't.
Taking statins doesn't help.
Does not help your atherosclerosis. No,
but taking
it doesn't lower. It doesn't lower the cholesterol, but it does some other things which I forget.
Taking high doses of vitamin C, according to this article, increases your body's ability to produce collagen, which
is important for healing.
Repairs the arteries and eliminates the scarring on the arteries.
Exactly, and on the heart muscle itself.
Yep. So that prevents the cholesterol from attaching and clogging up your arteries.
And it wouldn't hurt to take maybe 15 to 25 milligrams of zinc, because that's very important for the healing process.
Yeah, and if you're interested in that kind of information, the Townsend letter is a fantastic paper or magazine.
That's right.
And
if you subscribe to it, I mean, you can go online and subscribe to it, but if they ask you where you got the information about it, mention us.
Yeah, Health Empowerment News, CROFT WOODRUFF, the longtime supporter of the Townsend letter.
That's right.
And Nutrition and Healing with Dr. Jonathan Wright as well.
And there is a clinic that I would go to if I had no other answer. It's down to, it's halfway between Seattle and Tacoma, if I recall correctly. It's called the Tahoma Clinic, or you look for Jonathan Wright, Wright.
Mm-hmm. And great periodical that he puts out.
Oh, absolutely. The Nutrition and Healing. I subscribe to that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And there's another good one. I don't subscribe to this one, but I've read a few of the issues. My mom gets this one. Is what's it called? With Julian Whittaker.
Julian Whittaker, yeah.
Health and Healing, I think.
Health and Healing. He's got a good newsletter as well.
Yeah, that's another good one.
He doesn't mince any words, nor does Dr. Wright.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's about the long and the short of it in terms of...
But I might add that there are some people that I am rather cautious about, and this Weil...
Dr. Weil, yeah.
Dr. Weil.
Yeah.
I'm a little more cautious about him with what he has to say.
He's an osteopath, a medical doctor and osteopath.
Yeah.
And he has a very popular
yes,
website.
He does. Yeah. But again, I would be a little more circumspect with what he has to say, and or in accepting what he has to say. There's a few things that I have a friend who can more or less smell these types out of the woodwork. So, yeah.
How about Dr. Mercola?
Yeah, Mercola's fine.
Yeah. I like his website and his...
Yeah, he gives some very good information on things.
And I like the way he presents it too.
Yes.
It's he's a really cool doctor.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So
all right. So I guess that's a wrap for vitamin D, magnesium, calcium, and vitamin C. Anything else you want to add, Croft?
That is about the long and the short of it for today. Thank you very much. A pleasure to be with you as usual, Andrew. Thank you very much for this.
And if you want to join the show and ask a question or a comment or anything, call 1-877-636-1474 and we'll get you into the show. And thanks a lot for listening. And I'll play the outro music now and close off the show. See you again next week.